Thank you so much for joining us again for another episode in this series of Before and Happily Ever After, a woman's guide to thriving in marriage. So, for this episode, we have Rhea Plummer. She is the founder of Fab Wives. And if you're not in this group, you are missing out because I feel like I need to move to the East Coast just so I can be a part of all of the things. Like, forget everything that's going on. I just need to be there and be in your presence and just have fun with you and all the other wives.
You definitely have a good time.
So Rhea is the creator of Fab Wives, and the reason that I wanted to have her on, for years I've been wanting to go on one of her infamous girls trips, and I have not yet been able to make it. I think I had super big plans to go all the places in 2020, and then 2020 happened. So yeah. So I'm missing out, but not missing out. So, but Rhea has, hosted these incredible getaways, these beautiful girls trips. And I just wanted her to come on and talk about, kind of the correlation between having these sorts of relationships and, spending time on these girls trips and building up such a unique community of sisterhood that you really need before you go into marriage. So as we get started, Rhea, if you wouldn't mind telling the audience a little more about yourself.
Sure. Thank you so much, Catherine, for having me. Super excited to share my story. So I'm Rhea. Like you said, I'm the creator of Fab Wives, which is an accountability and support community created exclusively for wives. I'm a wife of, 11 years, going on 12 years soon. A mom of two. I work full-time in corporate America and manage Fab Wives as well. So pretty busy, but I absolutely wouldn't trade it for the world.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you are doing all the things. Yes. Yeah, I love that. Is like the perfect way to start this episode. You were saying that Fab Wives is part of it is being like an accountability group for wives. And if you followed Yoked for any amount of time, like this whole ministry started on the premise of having marriage advocates and being marriage advocates, because, we firmly believe that to do this whole marriage thing, you need someone who has kind of, been there. They have a little more experience to walk alongside you and, bring in the spirituality and the Christian aspect into it, talking about the Titus 2 woman, someone who has learned her lessons, who is still learning her lessons, and has been charged to share that wisdom with the young women and young wives coming behind her. And having Fab Wives as an accountability group, like I just, and I'm not just saying this because Rhea is my guest today. I absolutely love the community. Like it is definitely my favorite wife community that I'm a part of. It's amazing.
So sweet of you. I really appreciate it because there are a lot of amazing groups for wives out there. And we definitely try to create a platform and a community that feels different so that people can get something out of any wife group that they enter. So I'm so happy that you said that.
Yeah, I love it. So if you can, will you tell us a little bit about the different, girls trips that you've organized and been able to participate in over the years?
Sure. So we do girls trips and we actually do a large couples trip every year too. Some of our girls trips have really come about from like some of the wives in the community have either felt like they couldn't travel without their husbands, or we just realized like, wow, you've never traveled since you've been married, or you've never done a girls trip since you've been married. Well, let's do it. So a lot of the trips have just come from that, or just feeling like we need a getaway, like we need a break from our regular lives as wives, and just time to like connect with each other and like motivate each other and support each other. So like one of the girls trips that we actually did was just a quick getaway to Atlanta for a wife who had never taken a girls trip before.
Oh, wow.
Planned out like a full itinerary with her and just like really wanted to highlight what the value of doing that is. So for us, our signature trip is we do a vacation every year. So we pick a different place, and unfortunately, COVID has derailed our plans. So the 2020 trip was impacted, of course, and then the 2021 will probably be impacted as well. But we've done Cayman Islands in Jamaica. We've done, Aruba. And each year it just grows and grows and grows. And what I love about those trips is that we have like the best of all worlds. So I know for me, there's time with my husband, there's time with the group, there's time with the girls, there's time alone. So I think it's so important because for me, trips are important. Trips are a way that trips are for me a means to reconnect with my husband.
Absolutely.
And then trips for me are also a way to disconnect from my husband, you know?
Right.
So I think it's, just as important. So it was important for me to cultivate an experience that we can do on an annual basis that allows couples, husbands, and wives the opportunity to connect in different ways.
Right. One thing that I'm learning, like I'm not too far behind you. We're celebrating, we just celebrated 9 years in November.
Oh,
and
congratulations.
Thank you. But one thing that I learned, because, my husband and I, he is my best friend. We are attached at the hip, like at all times. And I think like the epiphany I had the day that I was like, he was like, well, if you need to get away with your girls or, go spend some time alone, that's, you can do that. And I'm like, you mean I can go somewhere without you? Like, what is this new world that has now opened up in front of my eyes? Like, I'm out. Like,
I personally love to every once in a while miss my husband. Like I love that feeling when we come back and we're like, I missed you. And it's just like, it rejuvenates you for sure.
Right. But yeah, it's, I have other friends who are, in the content creator space who, their specialty is kind of self-care and, really emphasizing the point that self-care is not selfish, that you really need to take care of yourself so that you can take care of others. And being able to go on trips to, like you said, disconnect from your husband and be able to miss him a little bit and have him miss you a little bit is really healthy. I feel like it's something that's vital for the health of your marriage. Like you need some distance at some point, because no matter how much you love your spouse or how great your relationship is, especially if you're an introvert like I am, you need time to like rejuvenate and recharge away from people.
I agree. And I know there are people who feel like, and I mean, my husband's my best friend, but I know there are people who feel like they can't take trips and travel away from their spouses. I don't understand that. I mean, I'm not judgmental about however anyone chooses to operate their marriage, but I just don't understand that. Yeah. So it's like, like you said, I like the time to disconnect. I like the time to miss my husband. And sometimes, it's good to just, be one with your own thoughts and, have your own experience outside of your husband sometimes, because that's also what makes you you. And that makes you the type of wife that you are as well. So I know for me, my husband loves it when I come back from a girls trip refreshed, because he reaps all the benefits.
Yes, the benefits. So I think I want to talk, you've kind of touched on it a little bit, but I want to talk, I guess, a little more in depth about the importance of taking these trips when it comes to nurturing friendships, so that those friendships can really help you thrive in your marriage. Like, how important is it to build and nurture and sustain a friendship with a friend that is like not your spouse?
With your tribe. Because one little disclaimer I'll give. I definitely like we plan trips and we don't know each other on a lot of these trips and we meet each other and like have the best time and we always leave as friends. But sometimes you know how you have those friends that you really can't travel with.
Yeah, yeah, we all have them.
So I'll give that disclaimer, nurturing it with your tribe, and make sure that like if your goal is to like rejuvenate, make sure you're around people who like will pour into you. And I love those kind of trips, the trips that are about like meaningful connections. And then also like as much as I want to go out and have a good time, I do want those moments where we're talking about life and we're growing and we're like encouraging each other. I think that when you're on vacation, for me, my ideal vacation is on a tropical island. So
Yes.
when you're out on the beach with your girls and your tribe and you're having those conversations and like pouring into yourselves in that way, you have that isolation period without any cares in the world. And it really is a great opportunity to just pour into each other. And anytime you have those type of experiences, it always manifests into you as an individual and then of course into your marriage. So I think it's so important. Like I said, I think that a lot of times what makes our trips work is that, you know, people come with an open mind and people come ready to give and ready to receive. So I think that that's what's so important because, like I said, we meet as strangers for the most part. Everybody that comes together are strangers, and there's still there's still wives who I keep in touch with that I've only seen and hung out with on those trips, and now we're like forever friends.
Yeah.
So I think it's just so important.
Yeah, I'm a big Sex and the City fan, and in the movie where Mr. Big stood Carrie up at the altar, and all the girls went on her honeymoon with her,
Yeah.
and you know, just kind of you know, walked through her grief with her, and I was just like, man, those are some amazing friends. Like the movie was crazy anyway, but you know, it's like those are some amazing friends that, you know, a relationship that had been cultivated, that they were able to walk with her when she needed them the most, even when, you know, it's a movie, but you know, when she tried to push them away. But
Right.
I think it does have a correlation to real life that, you know, when you're out on these trips, there's like no pretense. You get to see who people really are. You get to be yourself. You get to connect and say, I'm not the only person going through this situation. I'm not the only person struggling with a certain issue in my marriage. I'm not the only person who is leaving this connection, and really be able to be there for each other. And it's beautiful, and it's even more beautiful when you get to do it on a tropical island, which is what I'm totally missing right now. Like,
Me too.
oh,
Desperately.
I need the
Yes.
sand and the surf. We need the sand and the surf.
Yes. What you realize is when you create that, when you're able to isolate yourself and create that moment will continue to last. So those people, those wives that I built those relationships with and were able to be that vulnerable with, that carries on into now. So like as we're navigating the pandemic together, our conversations are different. You know, we're able to confide in each other in a different way because, you know, when you're traveling with people, it allows you to be your vulnerable self. Like you literally waking up and going to sleep. Like you guys are almost roommates, you know?
Yeah. So a question that I wanted to ask, you kind of talked about, you know, you have some friends that you can't travel with. And I was kind of thinking along the lines of, you know, how do you navigate friendships when you can't travel with people, or how do you deal with having friendships, like as you're getting to learn more about people and doing that through travel? How do you navigate dealing with relationships, I guess, that you would say can be potentially toxic to your marriage? And I guess where I'm coming from in that thinking is having people who in your life who don't support your marriage, and they don't want the best for you, and they're either emotionally or whatever destructive for your marriage. Like, how do you navigate that?
That is,
Not necessarily on the trip part, but just in
yeah,
navigating
in
friendships.
general. Yeah, you know what? That is really tough. But one of the things that I subscribe to is, number one, my marriage, after my relationship with God, my marriage is the most important relationship in my life. And that's just period. So one of the things that I
Mm-hmm.
definitely am very careful about is who is in my tribe and um, who is in my social circle, especially as it
Mm-hmm.
comes to my marriage. So I think that it's important, and it's extremely important to have friends and friendships where those people who you're choosing to enter an amazing relationship with, like, friendships is one of the best gifts that people can give each other.
Mm-hmm.
So if they don't love you genuinely, and if they don't love your marriage genuinely, then that's probably people. My husband always says, put people in a box. I'm not good at that. I like friendships where things can flow freely. I never like to censor myself. That's really
Mm-hmm.
tough for me. So I'm not a filtered person. So I struggle with putting people in a box. So
Mm-hmm.
for me, the way that I handle those toxic type of friendships, or friendships where people don't wish me and my marriage especially well, is
Mm-hmm.
I have been doing some work, because I'm known to just cut it off. Yeah, I don't give you no explanation. We ain't gonna talk about it. I don't have anything to say. But what I'm realizing, and this is just within the past year and a half, is that's not fair.
Mm-hmm.
One, it's not fair because people have their own challenges and they're going through things. So,
Mm-hmm.
and people don't always show you what they're going through, and won't. So there could be a wife who is toxic to my marriage, and I may be thinking that she's judging me for whatever reason, or thinking that she's perfect. But in actuality, that person could be speaking from a place of pain and hurt. And
Mm-hmm.
instead of me cutting that person off, ministering to that person is really important. So one of the things that I did probably about a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago, you know how they say, like, at the end of the year, you cutting people off, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't go on a spree to look for people to cut off, but I do. I do start to evaluate my friendships. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and normally I would just say, like, okay, this person isn't serving me anymore. I don't think I'm serving this person. Done. No talking. I'm just gonna evaporate. But I decided to do something different, where I reached out to the people who I felt like, maybe our season has come to an end. And I started to try
Mm-hmm.
to implement something new for me, which was to have a heartfelt conversation, like, hey, I haven't heard from you, or whatever the conversation is, to have a tough conversation about where we stand, or where I'm feeling like we stand, and let the reaction determine. And for me, there was a person in my life where I was like, she's just moving so funny to me. I don't know what's up with her. Me genuinely concerned about her, because I felt like the dynamic of our friendship changed. And like me kind of having feelings that I should take a step back. I found out that she was going through hell. She was
Oh,
going through
wow.
something that would have broke me. So I think it's important that we don't just jump right to the cutoff spirit. I think that social media and our society teaches, like, if they're not serving you, cut them off. But
Mm-hmm.
I really moved into the realm of, you know, if the person feels toxic, what's going on in their lives? People
Mm-hmm.
don't want to just be toxic, especially not at my age. We don't have time for that. So
Right.
maybe there's a barrier that I create where you don't have access to my mental capacity or my mind, but I can still love on you and minister to you, and I can still care for you and let you know that I'm there for you, where it's all about you, but I'm not going to receive, some of the hurtful things that you may say, because you're in a bad spot. And
Right.
I also think it's important that when you have those toxic people in your life, you're not afraid to call them out on, hey, you're having a moment, because this is what I'm feeling, or this is how I'm receiving you right now. And a
Mhm.
lot of times people don't know, like hurt people and they don't even know it. So I really struggle with that. Cause like I said, like my husband's like, you put people in their box. And I'm like, I'm not putting nobody in no box. I deal with my friends this way. And like once I started making those changes and really, being more empathetic to what other people were going through outside of me and just got over myself, like it's not always about you. Like some people are genuinely toxic because they need your help. Some people are genuinely toxic because they need you to pray for them. They need a hug. They need
Mhm.
words of encouragement. They're literally going through hell, and maybe you're the person who can, share a kind word or let them know that you're there for them and call them out on their crap.
Yeah. Yeah, I love everything you just said. And it's so important to put those boundaries up. And I think for me, I'm just getting to the point where I'm like, okay, I need to have these conversations because I'm always the kind of person where I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, and I would rather like take on that hurt than to hurt someone else. But that's not honoring my own boundary, and it's allowing toxicity into my life. And I'm like, I already have enough stress related health issues. Like I can't keep doing all of this.
Right.
But yeah, you were saying some people are toxic because they need you to pray for them or need a hug, or they just need you to kind of intervene and intercede for them. um Something that I always carry with me when I first started doing this ministry, there was a one of my friends, she's in the same marriage space, and she had invited me to come out and talk to her group. And I was talking about the need for marriage advocates, for having someone that you can confide in and walk through marriage with, and was really making a platform for that. And there was an older woman who got up, and she just kind of railed against the idea, and was very staunchly saying that you should not let anybody know your business. Whatever goes on in your household needs to stay in your household. And and I could see, of course, when I felt offended, because I'm like, how dare you say something different than what I said.
Right.
But I could see her pain and her brokenness, because she had been dealing with a situation where she had been like the primary caregiver for her husband, who had been sick for like 30 years. And
Mm.
she was doing it on her own. And she was like, you can't let anybody know what's going on. And I wanted to get up and hug her and say, let somebody be there for you. Let
Right.
somebody help you in this. But she was so angry. And, that was, wow, that was a long time ago. That was several years ago, but I still carry that, carry her grief with me, that, I wish you would let somebody be there for you. And I wish that you had friendships and women in your life that you could confide in and let be angels in your
Yeah.
life.
I'll say my husband and I, we've always been, we were like the first in our social circle to get married. And
Mhm.
we always prided ourselves on transparency. It just came natural to us in our circle.
Mhm.
And we used to do couples night ins, and we would really lead the conversation, and and we would have breakthroughs and leave learning so much more about marriage in general, and feeling a huge sense of normalcy because we set the example and we were so transparent. And when I started Fab Wives, I was not a naturally transparent person to the world. Um,
Mhm.
so like when we started writing a blog and then doing the podcast, it wasn't it wasn't natural to me before I stepped into it. But once I was actually like, okay, hit live, like, okay, this is it, Fab Wives is here. It just came so natural to me. And I felt like that was what I was called to do, to be transparent and to create a sense of normalcy, because I strongly believe, and I won't get too much into like, specifically the Black community, and I won't go too much into all of, my thoughts about us as a culture, but
Mhm.
I do have my opinions about that mantra that we were all taught, me too, to what goes on the house stays in the house.
Mm-hmm.
And I do feel like there is healing in sharing your story with the right group, with the right audience. And I think that there's breakthrough in that. And then one of the pillars that I built Fab Wives off of was that with transparency, there's a sense of normalcy. And when you feel normal, when you go through these things in marriage, then that lets you know, like, I can do this. Like, I can do this. And then if you're in a place where, you know what, this is not normal, like I shouldn't be going through this. How can I get the tools to, improve this? Or how can I get the tools that I need to like make sure that we can create a better foundation or whatever issue that you're going through? I think it's important to, you don't have to be transparent with the world, but you do need to find your tribe. And you do need to find the people who you can be transparent with. And that's why one of our slogans is every wife needs her tribe. I strongly believe that. Is every wife going to be transparent and share? No, but if I'm sharing and if I build a platform with people who feel comfortable sharing, you're going to see yourself in somebody. And you're going to know like, wow, okay, you know what? That little argument that we had is just that, a little argument. Now here's how we move forward. So I think it's important. And I hate that the previous generations embedded that into us. And I know that was coping and defense mechanisms and all that stuff. But I think it's important to break that so we can have breakthroughs.
Yes. Not even thinking about it in that aspect, but that is a type of generational curse. Try to hold all of that in and, hide things that are human behind the facade of perfectionism.
Absolutely.
And I'm very thankful for our generation that is like, we're not going to do that. Like, we're going to do something different.
Exactly. It was so not to get off topic, but I was just talking to a friend about this the other day. Even down to financial, like we don't, somebody can, if you're having financial troubles and you shared it, somebody would be more than willing to help you. Even down to opportunities. So I was telling one of my friends about a job and I'm like, I'm not sure where you are, but like I felt compelled to have the conversation. But if this person was acting like they are a millionaire, then that would have been an opportunity that I wouldn't have come to him with. So it's like, because we've had transparent discussions about finances and, where we're at financially and where we want to be, I knew that this was somebody who I can say, hey, I think this is a good fit for you. It's going to be an increase, just down to that. So I think that you have to feel comfortable, but I do think that it's important for you to find a tribe of people in all areas of life that you really feel like I need to grow in these areas. And these are the people who I can go to be transparent and to share information freely and experience my breakthroughs.
Yes. Amen to all of that. So I just wanted to say thank you. I know this was, a quick conversation, but there's so much, wealth and community and wisdom in this conversation. And I just thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me. If you would not mind, please let everyone know where they can find you on social media and on the podcast, because the podcast is thebomb.com. And I'm saying it on my podcast. I'm telling y'all, if you're not in the Fab Wives community, you need to hop, skip, and jump right on over there. So let everybody know where they can find you.
Sure. So definitely connect with us. You can find us at our digital home, fabwives.com. We're on social media at Fab Wives, and definitely join our private Facebook group. I love our private Facebook group. It's just called Fab Wives Community. You can search it right on Facebook. And please tune into the Fab Wives Unfiltered podcast. Catherine has definitely been a guest of ours on 2 episodes, actually.
Yes.
And Fab Wives Unfiltered is available on all major platforms: Apple, Google Play, Spotify, where else? iHeart. So just find us.
Thank you again for joining us. Make sure that you stay tuned for the next episode in our series of Before and Happily Ever After, the Woman's Guide to Thriving in Marriage. Thank you again, Rhea. We'll see you again.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.